From showcasing radical designs to potent powertrains, these concepts were instrumental in shaping the iconic pony car that we know today. 1963 Cougar II Concept.
This is Cougar II, another practical dream car. It's a two-passenger GT or Gran Turismo.
When General Motors started the production of their new Corvette model, the C2 in 1962, Ford had an inkling that the stylish coupe might dominate the sports car market if they didn't give consumers another option. They were already on the drawing board even before the C2 was unveiled. The concept cars were built on the collaboration that resulted in the AC Shelby Cobra. The American car maker was able to get the chassis of Cobra's 8th production unit with chassis number CSX 2008. Design chief Bordenat spearheaded the development of the new bodywork that featured lines similar to the C2 Corvette that was about to hit the market. This car was given the name Cougar II. Ford intended the Cougar II to have a 4.2-liter V8 mated to a 4-speed transmission under its hood. If ever the engine was installed, the estimated top speed of the vehicle would have been 170 miles per hour. The Cougar II performance numbers would have put the Shelby Cobra to shame. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case. The Cougar II appeared at the Ford Pavilion during the 1964 World's Fair in New York, where the near-production version of the first Mustang was also showcased. Before the Cougar II Ford Mustang Concept, an earlier design study had the same internal code, the Mustang Cougar proposal. Yes, Ford almost called the Mustang a Cougar. 1965 Mustang Shelby GT 350 prototype. When the Mustang eventually hit the market in 1964, the car world was enamored. Ford sold 22,000 units of the Mustang on its first day, and over 1 million after 18 months. The car that later became the basis for the famous Hollywood car, Eleanor, while popular, was far from being a true muscle car. With the top brass of the Ford management worrying about how to keep the momentum going, the company approached automotive icon and legendary racer Carroll Shelby for his input. Shelby agreed to come up with a Mustang that would outperform any car on the racetrack. In order to meet the deadline of the Sports Car Club of America for the production class, the car maker sent 110-1965 K-code fastback Ford Mustangs to Shelby in Los Angeles. The shipment included all parts needed to develop the high-output Ford Mustang that eventually became the Shelby GT 350 prototype. 100 examples were produced. Sporting the Wimbledon white paint they've been known for and the blue stripes on their hoods, the Shelby-badged Mustangs were dressed to impress. The prototype, with a modified body and suspension, among other elements to meet the SCCA's requirements, was powered by a heavily refined version of the Mustang's engine that cranks out 271 horses. The output of the cast iron block was more potent at 306 horsepower and 329 pound-feet of torque, enough to bring the car from 0 to 60 miles per hour in 6.6 seconds. 1967 Shelby GT 500 prototype, Little Red. The 1967 Shelby GT 500 prototype is not just another fancy Mustang development car. Lovingly nicknamed Little Red because of its candy apple red paint, the prototype is an essential piece of the history of the iconic American muscle car. Yes, a colorful story to add, too, because it disappeared for several decades. Initially thought to have been crashed, the long-lost Little Red was only found in 2018 in a field in Texas and restored by the folks at Barrett-Jackson. The story of the GT 500 Mustang prototype was a fascinating one. It was the only 1967 Mustang notchback GT coupe built and sent to the Shelby workshop with dual-quad carburetors, and the first that featured a 428 FE engine that came straight from the Ford factory. The Shelby team did their wonderful work to give the car a stretched front end with a new hood, a rear spoiler, side scoops, and other modifications. It had the XP 500 label on the side, which means it's an experimental GT 500. Of course, they also tweaked the engine for higher output, but no official performance figures were released. While official numbers were not published, there were accounts of how ludicrous the ride was. The supercharged prototype had no issues hitting 80 miles per hour from idle and, one time, was stopped by cops in California for going at speeds near 140 miles per hour. Number 6. 1967 Ford Mach II Concept. Another tantalizing Mustang concept car is the 1967 Ford Mach II. This study of a Ford Cobra-style vehicle aimed to produce a road sports car that is an affordable two-seater, high-performance vehicle that would retail at around $7,500. To achieve this, the carmaker sent a 1966 Mustang convertible to Carcraft, a race shop that was set up to serve the wish list of Ford. A feasibility car painted in light blue was the first prototype. With the availability of the 1967 Mustang platform, Ford reportedly built 2 more mid-engine mules in red and white. For the newer version of the experimental car, the vehicles were modified to fit the 289 engine with the Colati transaxle for the first version and with the ZF unit for the 2 cars on the 67 Mustang platform. Just like its little red cousin, the red Mach II concept also has a good dose of mystery that comes with it. No one knows where the vehicle is. It was last seen in a 1969 video at Carcraft. Number 5, 1968, Shelby XP 500 Green Hornet. The Green Hornet Mustang concept car is another notchback prototype that was used to test the then-emerging style lines and automotive technologies. The sibling of Little Red was originally meant to be the GTCS prototype. It was eventually sent to the Michigan office of Shelby, where it received various experimental modifications. The most notable part of the development was the 7-liter V8 block equipped with a Connelec fuel injection system. According to estimates, the Shelby XP 500 Green Hornet was able to produce 475 horsepower and hit 0 to 60 miles per hour in 5.7 seconds, and averaged a top speed of 157 miles per hour during its test runs at Ford's proving grounds. The Green Hornet was more fortunate than its fellow EXP 500 prototype Little Red. It changed hands from the hands of a Ford employee who sold it to a Ford dealer in Michigan, and then later on owned by Steve Davis, the president of Barrett Jackson. Now it is in the hands of Craig Jackson, the CEO of the auction firm. 1970 Mustang Milano Concept. Car enthusiasts first saw the gorgeous Mustang Milano concept car in February 1970 at the Chicago Auto Show. The experimental car showcased the design lines of the would-be 1971 Mustang. It had 2 massive vents that hid the headlamps and served as the car's grille. The 2-seater also looked sleek with an almost horizontal fastback rear end that somehow looked similar to the 1970 Torino. Named after Milan, Italy, where Grand Tourers prowled, the Milano concept Mustang was 7 inches lower than the Mustang sports roof. The windshield of the vehicle was also at a steep 67-degree angle. Its taillights featured a warning system that changed colors when the driver was accelerating, coasting, or braking. The ultraviolet painted car with cast aluminum wheels looked better than the production version of the Mustang the following year. The car's DNA was evident in other Ford models, such as the Falcon XB Coupe, that hit the Australian market in the mid-70s. It is definitely one of the most popular Mustang concepts you didn't know existed. Ford did not release any technical information about the engine of this Mustang prototype. Number 3, 1980 IMSA Mustang. This experimental pony car was named after the International Motorsports Association, the sports car racing governing body in North America. The Ford Mustang IMSA is a performance prototype that features elements that can help push the car to its limits. These include different aerodynamic elements, a modified shaker hood, wide fender flares, a deck wing spoiler, and wide Pirelli P7 rubber, among others. Ford showcased the 1980 IMSA Mustang concept at that year's Chicago Auto Show. Looking aggressive with white pearl paint accented by gold and orange stripes, the experimental Mustang had a 132 horsepower, inline-4 2.3-liter turbocharged engine under its hood. While the oil crisis during the decade somehow slowed down the development of performance Mustangs, this Mustang concept showed that Ford is constantly feeling the need for speed. Number 2, 1993, Mach III. From a Fox body Stang, the beloved pony car tried to show some curves. The 1993 Ford Mustang Mach III concept showcased the new styling direction of the car maker. It is a 2-seater roadster that initially gives you a mid-engine vehicle vibe, but it actually retained the traditional front-engine configuration. Aside from the good looks, the Mach III also had a potent power plant in the form of a V8 that was borrowed from the Lincoln Mark VIII. The 450 horsepower block is a 4.6-liter with an Eaton supercharger mated to a 6-speed manual gearbox. With this specs sheet, The car can hit a top speed of 180 miles per hour. Going from 0 to 60 is also not an issue, clocking in at 4.5 seconds. While there were 2 examples of this concept car built, it did not get the nod of the bosses at Ford. However, its styling cues made it to the Fox Ford generation of Mustangs. Number 1. 2003 Super Mustang Coupe GT. From the lateral C-scoops, tail lamps with 3 elements, to the ever-recognizable galloping pony emblem, these elements help define the long hood and short rear deck of the Mustang through the years. With the Super Mustang Coupe GT concept unveiled, the fans were blown away by its aggressive stance, new design language, and modern interior. The carmaker showcased the coupe alongside a convertible sibling. The exterior of the car revealed the true character of the iconic American muscle car. It's very extroverted, always ready to pounce. The concept car used the architecture of the rear-wheel drive Thunderbird, of course, modified to achieve the desired proportions. The design concepts for this Mustang were penned by the Living Legends studio in Michigan and the California Design Center of Ford. While showcasing modern lines, the inspiration from the 1968 Ford Mustang GT Fastback was evident. Under its hood is a V8 that outputs 400 horsepower and 390 pound-feet of torque.